Hello everyone. This is Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers, also known as the Minister of Justice. And with me I have...
Antonia Corbett. I'm sitting in for my daughter, Chloe.
Yes, my sweetheart. And Chloe and I, each and every Saturday, bring you a legal analysis of trending politics, politicians, personalities, and pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy an unjust legal system. So go ahead, please, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Like, share, and comment, and thank you for joining us today. And as you see, Chloe is not with us. She is attending to personal business. In fact, one of her law school classmates got married this week. Another one got married last week. Or the week before. When was it? Was it last week or the week before, Tony?
The week before.
The week before. So look, great things come in threes. So maybe we're going to get an announcement soon that somebody, Chloe, if you're watching, I hope you get what I'm trying to say here. But anyway, thank you for joining us, sweetheart. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. So glad that you're with me. You're looking beautiful as always.
Thank you. Well, you are handsome, always.
Thank you. All right. So we are going to talk a little bit about the midterms that we had this past Tuesday. A lot of historical things happened. And I think a lot of disappointment in the GOP because everyone was essentially saying that there would be a GOP wave, even a tsunami. And it turns out that we've only gotten a GOP ripple, and we don't even know if it's going to be that because we're still waiting for results to come in several key races. As of right now, neither the GOP nor the Democrats know who has control of the House. It looks like the GOP may take control of the House, but it's still really up in the air as it relates to the Senate. So we don't know. We're just waiting. Now, Chloe and I last week, we bought into the hype, okay? And we said that it looked like it could be a Democrat blowout or a GOP blowout. In other words, the GOP blow out the Democrats. We're just talking based on what the media says. I think that's one lesson we need to learn here. We can't necessarily believe what the media says, whether it's liberal media, conservative media. They can get it wrong, and they've gotten it wrong many times. And it looks like they got it wrong this time. What do you say?
Well, I think we should have learned even this time. I was taking with a grain of salt what the media was saying as far as all the polling, because we remembered what happened in 2016. The media was saying that, it was going to be a Hillary Clinton win. It was just, so predictable she would be the winner. And you see how wrong they got that. So I'm of the persuasion it always is about the turnout. It's not about who the media people contact, and ask how you plan to vote. No, it's who goes to the polls to vote. And nobody can actually, say that for certain. So I always say it's all about the turnout. That's something that has not changed and will not change based upon our system. Is based upon the voters and who actually shows up, not who tells somebody else, this is what I plan to do and this is who I plan to vote for. Because even if you contact people during those polling calls or text messages, they could say they plan to vote for one candidate and then get there and have a change of mind, you know, the actual day that they cast their vote. So I take it sort of with a grain of salt. And I think in our political climate, everything is different. Normally you can base so much on historical data, but even this midterms really just cause all that historical data, the trend to shift because typically the Democrats should have lost big time as was predicted. But we're in a different political climate and everyone has to um, accept that. I think the media, I think we as constituencies, we have to just realize we're in a different climate. It's totally different.
Yes, well said. I completely agree. I think you I think you hit the nail on the head. You sound like a politician or a political scientist when you point us to the turnout. You know,
Right,
who's able to get their base to turn out, and then who's able to get the independents to turn out.
right,
And you know, what I said last week was, Chloe really focused us on the economy and inflation and those sorts of things, which are very, very, very important. I felt like the country needed to focus on who was the greatest threat to democracy, who was the greatest existential threat to our country. And in my
right.
mind, it is certainly the GOP, considering the fact that they are so beholden to Donald Trump and his big lie. I had to remind some folks this week that we came within seconds of him completely, totally, um, undermining our democracy. If Mike Pence had done what Trump wanted him to do, Trump may well be the president today. And
Well,
that,
he could have been. Well, don't you think if that would have happened, I mean, it would have sent the country in a whirlwind. I mean, wouldn't have there would have been a lot of legal ramifications. The courts would have to have gotten involved. I would think. I hope they would not have just said, okay, yeah, you're the president, since Mike Pence is refusing to take these, certify these votes from the states.
wow. I mean, that takes us down a road that is scary, quite frankly, at what could have happened.
Right, and I
And,
think that's where we need to be, though. I seriously think that is where we need to be. Things are not
oh, wow.
the
She froze.
better we can fight against what's going on in the country that would be a detriment to the democracy itself.
Yeah, I agree. You froze up there for a second. I didn't get some of what you said, but uh,
Okay.
I got most of it. Um, let's look at some of the results. All right, so let's talk about some of the results here for a second.
Okay.
Um, so the current state of events, I believe, as far as the U.S. government is concerned, the House right now, no party has been declared again the winner of majority of the House. I think the Republicans are sitting now at 211, and they need 218, so they are seven away from controlling the House. The Democrats 203, so they are further away. They need 15 seats to take control of the House. So clearly, the Republican Party, the GOP, has the momentum. Well, they have more wins, and I would say momentum. So let's see how that turns out. As far as the Senate is concerned, the Republicans have 49 and the Democrats have 49. In fact, the Democrats picked up a seat, John Fetterman, in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So what's outstanding now. We're going to talk about those two outstanding races. I think it's what is it, Nevada and Georgia?
Right. Correct.
All right, so we're going to get to those a little bit later. But that's the current state of events right now. And once again, Tony, people thought that this was just going to be a total blowout. And turns out it's not.
Right. Because if people remember when President Obama was in office, I mean, the Democrats lost about 65 seats in the House of Representatives. I mean, it was bad, bad. That's when he said they had received a shellacking. So right now it looks as if it's just going to be very evenly split between the GOP and the Democrats in the House of Representatives. But if the GOP, you know, if they get to the 218, they will be ruling. But it would be just a slim, margin. And that would make it a little more difficult for really the GOP Speaker of the House to perhaps get some things done because of the narrow margin, it appears.
Well, imagine if the GOP, in fact, does have the majority and Kevin McCarthy becomes the Speaker of the House, and all the stuff he's done over the past 6 years.
Hmm.
Wow. I mean, I don't look forward to that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they've told us what they plan to do. And just depending, there's a section within the GOP called I think the Freedom Caucus. And they will probably have a little more influence in trying to sway Kevin McCarthy and what he's able to do. But for right now,
So, in other
you know,
words, his speakership is not a shoe in. I mean, they're fighting him
right,
on the far right, right?
right. And they would be trying to negotiate with him, or because he has to get a certain number of votes in order to be declared the Speaker of the House. I believe he has to get at least 218 because there are 435 representatives, and I think he has to get at least 218. So he has to keep all. If they only get to 218, he will have to get everybody on board to vote for him. Of course, if they get up to perhaps like 220, 222, 223, then he has three or four people who could vote against him, and he still could become the Speaker of the House. So it all really depends on how it turns out.
Well, the concerning thing is the fact that that Freedom Caucus consists of people who are deeply loyal to Donald Trump, the MAGA crowd. So they want Kevin McCarthy to be even more extreme and even
Right.
more in the pockets or in the control of Donald Trump. And wow, I mean, that's what
Right.
I think the country said. No, we're not. I think the country said, no, we're not going to vote in these election deniers because I'm hoping the country said it's time for us to move on from whether or not Joe Biden was legitimately elected, whether or not Donald Trump uh, was the victim of election fraud, and it's time to move on. It's time to solve problems. It's time to deal with inflation. It's time to deal with the debt. It's time to do this instead of just again renegotiating the 2020 election.
Well, I agree with you. And I believe that's the message. I agree that that is the message they sent. But what Maya Angelou told us, when people show you who they are, believe them. And the GOP has already said if they get in power, they're going to be perhaps trying to impeach some people. They're going to be doing a Biden, um, Hunter Biden investigations. I mean, so they have told us up front what they plan to do. So to me, if they do maintain and get control of the House, nothing is going to get done, nothing substantive is going to get done in the next couple of years, in my opinion.
Yeah. So it'll be a bunch of gridlock.
A bunch of investigations, a bunch of hearings, it would be like a revenge,
Payback.
tour. Yeah,
Payback.
big payback.
Yeah. For the January 6th investigation, um, and for other things that it's just crazy. And internationally, one of the things that's really concerning is the fact that Kevin McCarthy is on the record as saying that he would not just be, writing blank checks to Ukraine.
Right.
That's music to Putin's ears, right? To
Right.
hear that.
Mhm. That's exactly right. Because, people a lot of times would say, well, what does my vote do? What does it accomplish? And one thing is the House of Representatives, they control the purse strings. They are the ones who have to approve the budget. So, yeah, they could say no more supporting Ukraine or reduce it, by a large percentage, the funds that are going over there for that war. So, I mean, it'll be interesting just to see what happens in the next couple of years.
And certainly we as African Americans, we're concerned about whether or not some of the racial justice, social justice initiatives that have been coming out of the House will even now get a fair look at if Kevin McCarthy and that bunch becomes majority. Obviously, they won't. They're going to put the brakes on any kind of police reform, any kind of voter reform, anything to, again, move the needle forward in terms of social justice.
Right. That's exactly right. Because if people will remember, when the Democrats had control of the House, they sent over the bill for the George Floyd, Policing and Justice Act, as well as the John Lewis, Voting Rights Act to restore the voting rights law. But because of the way the Senate is and the two senators, Democrat senators who would not agree to remove the filibuster, those bills are just sitting in the Senate, you know? So it is important to vote. That's the overall point I want to make. It is important to vote because politics is power. And we all need to at least make our voice known and heard by the people that we vote for.
Yes, that is absolutely right. So now some reaction. We got some races, specific races we do want to look at. So we'll start with gubernatorial races. Westmoreland, pardon me, not Westmoreland, but Westmore. General Westmoreland is who I mistakenly called his name. But no, this is Westmore, a Rhodes Scholar and former military officer, was voted Maryland's first African-American governor.
Right.
So that's great. That's awesome. Let me see if I can. Nope, that ain't it. Trying to find. That ain't it either. But anyway, I was trying to find an applause. Good for him.
Yes, and he's only the third African American governor, in the nation.
Wow. Okay, here
Yeah.
it is. Yes, congratulations, Governor Westmore. But also, Maryland elected its first African-American Attorney General, General Anthony Brown. So shout out to him as well.
But I don't think he's a general. You said general?
Yeah, I just shortened it, Attorney General.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
I think that's appropriate. I don't know.
Okay.
But no, congratulations to the state of Maryland. Congratulations to these gentlemen and their families and constituents. And let's see more of this. Let's see more African Americans, um, you know, take a seat of power, to again make our voices known. This is what, Tony, this is what our ancestors fought for. They gave their lives oftentimes and dreamed of the days where their descendants could vote and choose the people they wanted to represent them. So
Yes.
this is the dream of our ancestors right here, these two gentlemen.
Yes. Totally agree.
All right. State houses. Now, Speaker of the House for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Joanna McClinton.
Yes.
I think we have a misspelling of her name, but I wasn't aware of her. You told me about her. Shout her out.
Yes. She's the first African American woman to be the Speaker of the House. And in fact, this is the first time in 10 years since 2010, so in 12 years, that Democrats will have control of the state Senate, the state house in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But she's an ordained minister, and she's a fierce, they said, criminal justice advocate. So she's been out there. She's very well known in the community. She's from Philadelphia. So they are very excited to have her.
Well, congratulations to Speaker McClinton. That is awesome. That is awesome to see, again, one of us in a seat of power. Ironically, I just read that Philadelphia had just last night, I think it was, 11 college students say that they were robbed at gunpoint in their college dormitory room.
Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, Philadelphia is reportedly having a surge in violent crimes, and across the country. We don't want to single Philly out, but across the country. And it's, if you listen to white conservatives, it's the wokeism, it's the progressive agenda in these cities in response to the George Floyd lynching and other lynchings, Ahmaud Arbery, et cetera, which is all hogwash, okay? All hogwash. That is not the reason why violent crime has increased. They also like to blame it on bail reform. That
Right.
is complete, total junk.
A- And let me also say, they always say this is a narrative. They say that it is because, it's in the cities where Democrats are in leadership. And I'm telling you all, please listen to me. That narrative is false also. There is rising crime even in GOP controlled states. It's not only the states that are run by Democrats. A lot of like next door to us in Oklahoma, per capita, I read a statistic that said that the murder per capita in Oklahoma is higher than in Chicago. And everyone likes to talk about Chicago. So it's not just in these Democrat run cities or states. It's happening across the nation. And don't let anyone else, tell you differently, because they will twist the narrative and have all of us thinking, oh, the Democrats, and I'm not a Democrat. So let me put that out there too. I'm
Neither
not a
am I.
Democrat.
Neither am I, or Republican.
Right, nor a Republican. I'm an independent. But as I've said on a show before with you, thinking men think data. So we always want to go back to the data and not just listen to the narrative that is put out here by all these different pundits. You have to really go and look up the research for yourself.
All right. Okay, so let's move on. U.S. House races. Well, shout out to this young man, a Gen Zer, member of the Generation Z, Representative Maxwell Frost. He is the newly elected representative of Florida's 10th congressional district. This was the seat that Val Demings held before she ran unsuccessfully for the Senate seat there against Mario Rubio.
Right.
But anyway, congratulations to this young man. Now, I think Generation Z are folks who were born after 1996. 1996. So that would, so he would be 26 years old or younger.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So he made history.
Yeah. He'll be the first Gen Z member of Congress.
Wow, made history in two different ways then.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we shout him out. Once again, we are the dream of our ancestors. And to see this young man run successfully for a newly elected seat there in the House, congratulations to him. I don't think there's any net gain from him winning this seat because he took the seat of Val Demings, who's African American as well. But anyway, great for him. Shout out him. All right, Jonathan Jackson won the 1st congressional district there in Illinois. I happen to know Representative Jackson. We went to college at A&T together. He and his brother Jesse Jr. I've had the pleasure of meeting his father as well. So we are very, very proud of him. A fellow Aggie took this seat. So Jonathan, congratulations, and congratulations to the Jackson family, who has done a tremendous amount of work for the African American community over the years. We pray for Reverend Jackson Sr. We pray for the entire family. We pray for Jesse Jr., Yusuf, Santita, the older daughter. We pray for this family and thank God for this family for their many years of service.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, Tony, Jonathan is one smart cookie.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. And he's very passionate. He's very passionate about helping people and being concerned about the least amongst us. You know, I can remember some years back, there was a town or city, well, a small town in Illinois, and there was something going on, and the community had been neglected for so long, and he brought, attention to it through the Rainbow Coalition. And those people were so appreciative because they said they had been neglected for so long, but he brought up their issues and was able to get them some help. So yeah, he's very passionate about helping communities that are vulnerable, very vulnerable and marginalized.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gifted family. Reverend Jackson and his wife, Mother Jacqueline Jackson, have done a great job with their children. And I mean, just a fantastic job. And so Jonathan is definitely going there to shake things up.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, he's that type now. He doesn't play.
Yes. I pity any of the folks who try to take him on because he's sharp. I mean, smart, brilliant, and he has heart. I mean, so he has heart, and he comes from that family, that bloodline. I mean, where they know how to do this thing. So again, I'm just so godly proud, and he's a committed Christian as well, and a strong family man. So we just shout him out. Congratulations again, Jonathan. All right. Senatorial races. So the Democrat maintained Senator Mark Kelly's seat in Arizona. So, shout out to him. Again, we're not Democrats. Let me make that clear. We are not Democrats. We are not Democrats, but we are fascism. We are anti-white nationalism. We are anti-white supremacy. We are anti-white authoritarianism. We're not anti-white people. There are some wonderful white people, but we are anti-white, all that stuff that I just named. And the GOP just seems to be the party that has embraced that, and blatantly so. So again, we're not Democrats, but the GOP just is a threat right now to not only the country, but also to the African American community. So that's why we are happy that the Democrats, did not suffer what everyone had predicted.
Right. No, I thought. Thank you for saying that. I'm definitely anti-white supremacy, and that those are the policies that appear to be protruding out of this GOP as we know it now. I have voted for some Republicans in the past.
So have I. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're not, in fact, we're probably more conservative than, the folks would probably tend to believe. We are very conservative, but we also very anti-white supremacy. So that informs our posture, in this whole political environment.
Yeah, when it comes time to vote, every time we are sitting there conflicted, a little less conflicted here in the past couple of election cycles because the GOP has so blatantly identified with white supremacy and white supremacists that makes it a lot easier, right? But
Right.
typically we are, because there are things about the Democrat Party we don't like, strongly dislike some things about the Democrat Party, and some things we strongly dislike about the Republican Party. So
Right.
we just have to weigh out, which ones just seem to be best for us first and foremost, as first and foremost as Christians, then as African Americans and as Americans,
Right.
right? And
Exactly.
the GOP tries to present itself as the party of faith and all of that, but their actions and policies are very, very contradictory of faith.
Right. I agree because and I don't want to bring this up too much, but yeah,
Speak
with
freely. Say it. This is
with with
the
my
free speaking YouTube channel right here, podcast.
well, I'm just saying what I'm saying, I know what I'm saying is I don't like the way that the GOP will overlook and not be as concerned about the poor, the neglected, and the marginalized, and tends to be more concerned about the ultra wealthy and um complying with what these corporations would want them to do. And I'm not naive. I know corporations support both parties, so both of them have some kind of allegiance to the corporations. But I'm just of the mindset that wanting to cut Social Security and not allowing some of these states to have Medicare for all, I just don't get with that on the GOP platform.
Trying to cut Social Security.
Oh
That's
yeah,
almost un-American.
they want to get rid of Social Security altogether. So anyone out there listening, if your mother or grandmother is old enough to be receiving Social Security, um, older relatives, they are trying to get rid of that altogether. And so don't even think about if the millennials, we have 2 millennial children, Social Security probably will not be around, by that time. And then with the states, with the Affordable Care Act, some of these GOP run states refuse to expand their Medicare program so that more people could participate. So I just don't like those types of things that they do, because to me, their mindset is if you're poor, then it's a morality issue. You're lazy. You're poor because you want to be poor. You didn't pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And when I read the Bible, I see Jesus is always concerned about the poor. He's not getting into, trying to say, where's your fault? He's telling others who have to give to the poor. So that's my little spiel on that.
Excellent. All right. So this race is too close to call. This is Senator Masto and challenger Paul Laxhart. And it's just too close to call. It's been back and forth. If the Democrats were to pick up this seat, then the Democrats would maintain control of the Senate with Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. So they could still at least get some things done, particularly judicial appointments, federal judicial appointments. Biden could continue to put, a diverse set of people on federal benches, at least that, and some other things. But
Right.
so we should know this probably by Monday, I would think.
Right. I think they said next week we should know. And yeah, this is very, very key. And she had been, lagging behind. She did come up, the last figures I saw, it was less than 1,000 votes where she was running behind Laxalt. But if she's able to pull that out, then that would guarantee the Democrats to have control of the Senate.
So we
But
got
if
to see.
if she doesn't, and I know we're gonna get to Georgia, but if she doesn't, and if Herschel Walker wins in Georgia, then the GOP would control the Senate.
Yep, that's right. And in just a moment, I'm gonna show you why this is also very important. Speaking of Georgia, we're here. Senator Warnock received enough votes to lead Herschel in this race, but not the 50 plus one that he needed to outright win the race. So under Georgia law, they got to have a runoff. And that's scheduled to take place on December 6, 2022. And early voting will start, I believe, the 26th. Is that right? 26 or 28?
26, November 26th.
So you folks in Georgia, you can start casting your votes in this runout on November 26th. And you also can you can mail your ballots in also. And you can do that for the next couple of weeks leading up to this runoff, this December 6th runoff. But it is important that you do so. Georgia, Tony, has shown up big on 3 occasions over the last couple of years, twice in 2020 and once here, 2022. But they need to show up one more time big for Raphael Warnock. And before we go any further, why is it so important in our estimation, that's the Corbett family, for the Democrats to maintain control of Congress, hopefully, but definitely one side of the aisle? The Senate seems to be the best or most likely place. Let me play a video, and I think this video will show you exactly why we think it's critical.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory! No one will honor us for losing gracefully. No one mourns the great crimes committed against us. For us, it is conquer or die. The mainstream media, or perhaps we should refer to them in the original German, Lügenpresse. It's not just that they are leftist and cucks. It's not just that many are genuinely stupid. Indeed, one wonders if these people are people at all. Or instead soulless Gollum, animated by some dark power to repeat whatever talking point John Oliver stated the night before. To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward. And we recognize the central lie of American race relations. We don't exploit other groups. We don't gain anything from their presence. They need us and not the other way around. Within the very blood in our veins as children of the sun lies the potential for greatness. That is the great struggle we are called to. We are not meant to live in shame and weakness and disgrace. We were not meant to beg for moral validation from some of the most despicable creatures to ever populate the planet. We were meant to overcome all of it, because that is natural and normal for us. The press has clearly decided to double down and wage war against the legitimacy of Trump and the continued existence of white America. But they are really opening up the door for us. America was, until this past generation, a white country designed for ourselves and our posterity. It is our creation. It is our inheritance. And it belongs to us.
That says it all. That's Richard Spencer. He is a neo-Nazi. He is a white supremacist. He is a outspoken white nationalist and leader for the alt-right movement. And he makes it very clear. He's a strong Trump supporter. He started out by saying hell to Trump, like hell to Hitler. This guy he says the quiet things out loud. He says the thing that many, many, many white Americans think and believe, but will never say publicly. But he says it.
Well, I think more are beginning to say it out loud. That's what I'm saying. Things are not the same. White supremacy has always been around, but with the onset of former President Trump, these people are more apt to say the quiet part out loud. This guy, Richard Spencer, yes, that was despicable what he said. But what I'm hearing, other people are saying it as well. They may not be saying it as flagrantly as what Richard Spencer just said, but they in their hearts, and see, that's where this amounts to. In their hearts, many white Americans have bought into the narrative down through the centuries that there is a hierarchy system, a caste system, where God has put white people at the top of that hierarchy. And just like what he said in that clip, that they are the ones who conquer. They are the only ones who invent and produce. And
Uh,
in the mess that we're in. So I think more and more people with the changing demographics of this nation, more and more white people are willing to say the quiet part out loud and are willing to go and storm the Capitol. They're willing to go and interrupt the transfer of of an election, the transfer of power of a legitimate election. I mean, that's where we are. But I think so many people, and you and I talk about this all the time, we believe that America is so exceptional that it can never falter, it can never collapse. And that's not true. Every empire has collapsed. So people have to wake up and see where we are. And I hope perhaps this midterm, most folks want us just to try to get back to normal. I don't know that we'll get there, but I do believe with the people going out to vote, they said we are sick of these extremes on both sides, on the Democrat side and on the Republican side. Let's just get back to trying to solve some problems and make the American life better for more people.
Now, I want to make sure I understood something that you said. I want to make sure you said it correctly because I don't know if I heard it correctly. But
Okay.
but you said that, or I thought you said, it sounds like you said, and if you did say this, I know you didn't mean it. It sounds like you said you and I believe America is so exceptional that it can't fall or something. Um,
I
that
thought I said no, most people
okay,
believe.
okay.
Yeah. That's
Most
what
most people or most are you saying most people or most white people or just most people
I
generally?
think most people. I think most people in America, not just white people, I believe most people believe. That's why I believe you
So
can have
that's what I'm asking. Most Americans or most people around the world.
no, most Americans. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, most Americans. That's what I believe. Now I don't have the data because I haven't gone to survey people, but by our actions, I believe people believe America would just always be, this great nation that we have in our minds, um, and that we will not become like a third world nation like a Venezuela or something. I believe most Americans think that. Now that's just my belief. Like I said, I have not surveyed people, but I believe by the actions, because people are just going about their business, they're not tuning in to what's going on, that they think, things would just keep chiming along like normal.
Well, Trump showed us how much of a fallacy that is because again, January 6, 2020 was almost a successful attempt on his part to basically overthrow the government.
Right.
Had Mike Pence refused to certify that election pursuant to the Constitution, then Trump would have succeeded in basically defeating our democracy. And not only did he try through Pence, he tried through the court system. He tried by pressuring state officials.
Right.
He tried violently. And that's what those third world nations do, like Venezuela and other nations.
Right.
So
Right.
that shows us right there, America could very well, absolutely, if we let people like Trump, and that was the point I've been trying to make. If we let Trump and his group take control of state houses, of Congress, of the court system. All these people who are like him and want to see a white, authoritarian, white, nationalist country, a white supremacist country. If we let those folks get their hands on power in this nation, that's what's going to happen. We're going to become like Russia. And Trump and his family, Donald Jr. probably next in line, could, just take power for years to come. That's literally what he tried to do.
Exactly. And he has people who are supporting him because they fear the changing demographics. They know that if the trend continues, that they will not be the majority, in the nation. So that's why all of these extreme behaviors are going on now, because they realize that, and they do not want a representative, multicultural, multiracial nation. They want to maintain and retain the power and the privilege.
That's right.
That is what is going on.
So that brings us back to this race here in Georgia. If the Nevada race goes to the Republicans, that will give them 50 seats. And if the race in Georgia goes also to the Republican Party, that will give them 51 seats and control of the Senate and possibly control of the House.
More than likely control of the House. There is a narrow path, but it's very narrow for the Democrats to get control of the House. So yes, they will be in control of both chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate.
So if Nevada goes for the Democrats, then the Democrats will maintain control because of Kamala, her being, she being able to pass to cast the deciding vote on any sort of issue in front of that's in front of the Senate. Now, there's still the problem of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, the West Virginia senator, and Kristen is what, from Arizona?
I believe she's from Arizona.
Yeah. So, sorry, let's see what's going on here. My iPad went out. But anyway, those two have refused to vote with the Democrats to alter the filibuster rule that could help pass voter reform and police reform. And let me try to briefly explain that. If, let's say the Democrats and the Republicans both had 50 Senate seats. And let's say the Democrats wanted to get voter reform done. Well, they would need 10 Republican senators to join ranks with them to overcome any Republican who initiates a filibuster. So if the Democrats want to get voter reform done or police reform done, and one of the GOP senators initiated a filibuster, then the Democrats would need 10 GOP senators to join them, giving them 60 senators to overcome that filibuster.
Right.
The way this country is right now, they would not be able to get those 10 additional GOP senators to move any legislation forward. And the same is true, I would think, the same is true if the GOP wanted to if they gain control and wanted to move forward some legislation. But right now, they're not really concerned about moving forward in the legislation. They just want to be able to block and stop anything that Joe Biden does.
But see, let me mention this. But if they get 50, no, you're right. If they get 50 senators, what they could do, Augustus, is they could, and I don't think they will, but they could vote down the filibuster. See, what was going on in the past couple of years when when the Democrats were talking about getting rid of the filibuster, Cinnamon and Manchin were not willing to do that, you know. So they could not even do it because they didn't have enough votes. But if I understand it if I understand it correctly, let me know if they would have had all 50 votes and then Kamala would have made the 51st vote, they could have gotten rid of the filibuster rule on one of those measurements, either the Voting Rights Act that they're trying to pass or the Police and Justice Act. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me explain that. And thank you for bringing that up. That is correct. To move forth to pass any legislation, the filibuster rule is in place. It's not a part of the Constitution. It's more of a procedural rule. So if the Senate really wants to pass laws, then they need to be able to overcome the filibuster if somebody initiates a filibuster. But to change the actual filibuster rule, they only need a majority.
Right.
So they wouldn't need 10 Republicans to join them to change or even just get rid of the filibuster rule, because again, it is not a part of the Constitution. It is a procedural rule.
Right. And it was a procedural rule that was established really to hinder civil rights legislation from being passed.
Yes.
I mean, that's how crazy all of this is.
So I hope people understand that to initiate, to enact laws, the filibuster rule requires that whichever party wants to get the law passed, the filibuster, in order to overcome the filibuster, they would need 10 members of the other side of the aisle to join them, to give them 60 votes to overcome. It's called a cloture vote, right? But just to amend or to abolish the filibuster rule itself, only 50, a majority is needed. So if Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, the way things were when there were 50 Democrat senators, if they agreed, then Kamala could give the deciding vote. There would be 51 votes by the Democrats to at least change the filibuster. I wouldn't agree with completely abolishing the filibuster, but changing it to get past the voter registration reform bill or the police reform, I'm highly in favor of that.
Right.
And the reason I don't think abolishing the filibuster outright would be a good idea is because in the future, if the Republicans had the majority, then the Democrats wouldn't have the filibuster to stop some white supremacist agenda.
Right. No, I agree. And that's what people were saying, that they could just narrowly change the filibuster rule, not get rid of it all right in every situation or circumstance, but they could cut out the fact that we're going to change it to pass these particular laws because we feel that these particular laws are so critical to the functioning of our nation. The way that the Supreme Court
and the Senate has done this before. They have changed the filibuster rule before.
Right.
In fact, the GOP has done it. I believe they did it to get tax cuts approved. I believe on some issue that they wanted to done. They didn't debate and all that. They just changed the filibuster rule.
Right. So they could tailor it to those two critical bills that are waiting to be passed and brought into law, which would have a great impact on the way that policing is done, because it would include that qualified immunity, getting rid of that. And then, of course, the voting rights, the way they have just gutted that, from me listening to the defiant lawyers, I know that they have gutted the Voting Rights Act. So yeah, they could just narrow it to changing the rule, because I'm glad you're bringing that out. The filibuster is not a law; it's just a rule that they have established within the Senate, and they could narrowly say, just on these two occasions, we're going to not require that filibuster for these two bills, only a simple majority. And we could do that with Kamala, also having a vote.
All right. So these two gentlemen, this race is critical, and it will become super, super, super critical if the Republicans take Nevada. So we got to see. This is real, and the GOP is throwing everything that they got at this race. Everything they got. Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz are on Fox News begging for support for Herschel, begging for money, begging people to go out and vote for him. They want this seat bad, and they're willing to do whatever they got to do to get this seat. So
Right.
I'm encouraging all you Georgians down there who does not want to see Trump and MAGA and Richard Spencer and all these folks back in Congress, controlling Congress. And keep in mind, 2024 is right around the corner. Before you realize it, we'll be voting for the president. And I assure you, Trump is going to run. He will run. And his crowd will be out there doing what they do. So this race here in Georgia is a critical race. So go out, you Georgians, and vote. You can vote early come November 26th. You can start your mail-in ballots before December 6th as well. I don't have the exact date, but let's do it one more time. And this will do it for 6 years. This will do it for 6 years for Raphael Warnock. I just don't want to see our country in the hands of Trump and MAGA and QAnon and the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. I just don't want to see that. I think that is the biggest threat to our nation. Sure, Joe Biden needs to get on it and get on top of inflation and get on top of the gas prices. They've been coming down, thank God. But get on top of this stuff. He needs to do it. No question about that. But the imminent, clear, and present danger to this country right now is Trump and his mega crowd, for sure.
Yes.
Well, that is going to bring us to the end of our show. Tony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for the invitation to sit in for Chloe.
Yes, I mean, those are some hard shoes to follow right there, Chloe.
Yes. Well, we didn't get into the law. I'm not a lawyer, but everybody has an opinion about the elections. And I gave my opinion.
And thank you for doing so. And by the way, you folks who may not know my wife, She just gave the operative word right there. She gave her opinion, and she's very, very opinionated and very, very, very outspoken. So you just got a little taste of it right there. So thank you, sweetheart, for joining us. And we're out of here. We are out of here. Again, listen, you legal rebels, thank you for tuning in as well. If you got some family down in Georgia, call them, text them, email them, go visit them. Just get them out to vote. And you folks in Georgia, whatever you got to do to get folk, get your friends, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your nieces, your nephews who are eligible to vote, get them to the polls. It's not enough just to go vote, but you got to take somebody with you to vote. Any last words before we go, sweetheart?
Like, share, subscribe to the Defiant Lawyers. Share this, subscribe, like, make comment. And thank you all.
All right, we're out. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.